I say that's it for what's going on the Real Gridiron Pod. You want to get into a little bit of fantasy talk?
Yeah, excited to do this.
A little bit of fantasy football. So we're going to be reading off the Fantasy Pros top 10 for our 15 to 25 here. And then I guess we're just going to kind of be reacting to it, giving us our take on it, and then talking about, where do the Commanders rank in terms of fantasy football this year, and who are some guys, maybe some sleepers or some guys that you wouldn't mind drafting in those late rounds? Where is some value there? But
we all got our drafts coming up, right? So it's time to start to figure this out.
Time to start buckling down. So let's get started on this Fantasy Pros here. Fantasy Pros has Christian McCaffrey at the 1-1, CD Lamb at the 1-2, Tyreek Hill 1-3, Jamar Chase 4, Bijan Robinson 5, Justin Jefferson 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown 7, Breece Hall number 8, AJ Brown number 9, and Garrett Wilson number 10, with Pop's boy Puka Nacua right there at number 11. I don't know, Pop might take Terry McLaurin there at 11. We'll have to see. But that is the current shakeout for the top 10 there. I threw in Puka Nacua just to give Pop a little extra. But Pop, what are some of your reactions looking at that top 10? What do you think?
Son, I got to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Are you using the link that I sent you, or are you
using the I got to ask you a question. Do you listen, Pop? Because I told you, I said, we're not using the Yahoo Fantasy link because it's not 2009. I sent you the Fantasy Pros link in the email thread that you got the same link.
I missed that. Join. All right, I got the same link now. Link.
Let me get a hand up here, Pop. Let me get a hand up.
I apologize. Hey, I just want to be able to read it, see the right list. I'm cool with your using yours, not mine.
Good.
It was similar. It was similar.
It was similar. I mean, in that top 10, it's kind of hard to argue with. But what's your reaction on that top 10? I got a hot take, but I want to see what you think.
Well, I was surprised by seeing Justin Jefferson at 6. I'm not surprised at all at McCaffrey at 1. I think, with his bounce back Larry last year, I think last year the only reason people didn't pick him 1 because there was injury concerns. I guess that's always a possibility, but I definitely think he's the first guy off the board. I mean, do you agree?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
I think he will be. But I was surprised to see Justin Jefferson. Then CD Lamb at number 2, just surprised me. Maybe it's just me sleep at the wheel. I know he's a really good player, but having him that high up was surprising. Justin Jefferson was my number one last year in our fantasy league. So I'm surprised he's out. But I guess it makes sense because of quarterback, right? Now that I'm thinking about it. He doesn't have the quarterback throwing to him that he did last year. I don't know. Give me your hot take.
My hot take is I don't have Christian McCaffrey at the 1-1.
Who do you got at number 1?
I got Tyreek Hill at number 1. I probably just directly flip Hill and McCaffrey there. I probably go Hill 1, Lamb 2, McCaffrey 3. And I think if you're drafting number 3 and you get McCaffrey there, you're doing backflips. But this is just for me personally, the way I like to build my fantasy teams. I think you just need explosiveness at the wide receiver position to win weeks. I think if a running back has a really good week, he has 22 points. If a wide receiver has a really good week, he might put up 35. And I think Tyreek Hill just still has the highest ceiling. And when you're drafting that high at the top of the round, you're not drafting again for 22 picks a lot of the time. So you need somebody that's just going to win you some weeks. You need somebody who's going to fill in for that lack of depth that you have. And I think for me, Tyreek Hill is just that guy that, you open up the fantasy app at 107 and he already has 18 points. And you go, how the heck did that happen? And I think he missed 6 games last year. And still, I mean, he would have cruised over 2,000 yards minus the games that he missed. So you got to factor in a little bit of that injury, but the same with McCaffrey. McCaffrey, you wonder, was that an outlier year with him being healthy for as long as he was, and then you saw him start to get dinged up in the playoffs towards the end of the year? You can't draft factoring in injuries, in my opinion. And for me, I'm drafting Tyreek any day of the week at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, if injuries are not a factor, I go with C-Mac all day because I think he's unique in this top 10. The only other running back is Bijan Robinson.
Who I think we're a little ahead of ourselves on Bijan personally. But
So, I mean, he's unique in that he gets it running and he gets it passing. He's featured in both. He's the only
yeah,
guy. And I think he can rack up points there, and they love him. They absolutely love him. Shanahan loves him and loves featuring him. So if health's not a factor, I would race to the podium, wouldn't use much time, pick Christian McCaffrey personally. I think, I think this next group, my opinion, you look at CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, it's like flip a coin. They're all great. And they all could have blowout years. It's going to come down to quarterback play. Maybe you don't go Justin Jefferson because of quarterback play.
yeah,
But, I'd probably agree with you with that. After CMAC, I'd go Tyreek over CeeDee Lamb.
sure.
Just not. Seeing CeeDee Lamb holding out like that situation in Dallas just seems so fragile to
But
me.
we should at least have some clarity on that before we're actually
Of
drafting.
course,
I mean, we have another
yeah.
month, so I think if CD Lamb is not holding out and he's playing and Dak is playing, you have to take CD at number 2. There's no conversation. CD is a
But
fantastic wide
you got a
receiver.
coach, potentially a coach, a receiver, and your star receiver and your quarterback on the last year of their contracts. Now you could say contract year guys typically perform great, but
Yeah, I mean
that can go the other way too if things don't start out great and there's discontent. So it's going to be. I think I hope it goes up in flames, obviously, but
of
Dallas is
course.
going to be a real interesting watch. But what else do you like? Any other thoughts on this top 10? Any other
I'm just not.
surprises or changes you would make?
Yeah, I'm taking Amon Ra above Justin Jefferson and Bijan Robinson probably at number 5. I'm very high on Amon Ra. I'm also taking Brees Hall as my number 1 running back this year. I don't think Bijan Robinson, the talent profile is there. And if I'm drafting him towards the end of the first round, I'm happy. But at that spot, I can't justify it just because we haven't seen it yet. And Atlanta brought in Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins is going to throw for 5,000 yards like Kirk Cousins usually does, there just is not going to be a ton of rushing volume there. And they brought in the passing games coordinator from Los Angeles as their offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson. And he is going to want to throw the ball. McVay likes to throw the ball. They've had good running backs there, but they like to throw the ball. So I think Kirk is going to fling it. You look at the running back usage in Minnesota over the last couple of years when they didn't have Dalvin Cook, not as hot. I think you're going to see Atlanta flinging the ball around the yard a lot and probably playing from behind a decent bit because that defense is not very good. So I don't see where Bijan Robinson is the best running back in football other than Christian McCaffrey. I don't have him that high. I have him maybe closer to 4 or 5. I have Brees Hall above him for sure.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Like a guy like would you go Bijan over Saquon?
No. Or yes, I would, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd take Bijan over Saquon.
because
But I think,
that's the next running back that looks like off the board at 14.
well, Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. But I
Yeah,
would take,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
yeah, I would take Gibbs and Bijan. I think you got to go Bijan because there's no more competition there. I personally took ETN over Bijan in my dynasty draft earlier in the year, and that's a little different because it's dynasty. But I'm not. I just think Bijan's being overdrafted at this price. I could be wrong, but those are my 2 hot takes. I don't take McCaffrey at number 1, and I think Bijan's overdrafted right now.
Yeah, I mean, and Gibbs is kind of in that shared running back role too, right? I mean,
Well, with Montgomery, yeah.
Montgomery, right? And Montgomery was pretty productive last year, so yeah, that's interesting.
Yep, you and I both had Montgomery
In different
last
leagues,
year,
yeah.
and we both did. I mean, Montgomery. I think we were both in situations where Montgomery kind of saved our teams from being pretty bad. Our teams would have been pretty bad without Montgomery.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he's a savior last year for the Donald Pop household. But you want to talk 5 minutes about where these Commanders rank, Pop?
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe a bit discouraging, but I mean, it'd be interesting to kind of just run through where do the top 5 Commander guys rank, and then maybe if we had to pick one who we think might be a surprise or climbing the board, who would that be?
Yeah. So you got to look through the board here, and you've got McLaurin. Obviously, is going to be that top wide receiver. And I think where is he coming off the board exactly here, Pop? It's after the top 50 according to PFF.
Yeah, I think he's
Um,
at 60, according to
yeah.
PFF. Yeah,
So that's decent value there. I don't mind taking him at 60. I think because you're looking at a guy that, I mean, if things go right in the offense, if you look at around where some of the other guys are getting drafted, like he's Fantasy Pros has him at 62 here. He's getting drafted right around like Keenan Allen, Ramondre Stevenson, Dak Prescott. Like these are guys that you could easily see him outperforming if the offense takes off at the way you expect them to take off. But go ahead and go through the rest pop.
yeah. According to PFF, he got um, Terry McLaurin at 60. The next off the board would be Jaden Daniels at number 99. So obviously JD has a lot of upside potential here. And then third commander that would come off the board would be Brian Robertson Jr. at number 102. So pretty
Yeah,
soon after. And then quickly after that, Austin Eckler at number 107. So that's the top four. And then you got to wait till the 150th pick. And Jahan Dotson is the fifth commander off the board. So I guess at that point, you might be talking free agents or, that kind of thing. I think a guy maybe to keep an eye out for is maybe a depth tight end, might be a Zach Ertz.
yeah,
You might pick him as a second tight end, but I can't really think of anyone else. There isn't really
yeah.
anyone else, right?
I mean,
Offensively.
I don't mind drafting Zach Ertz if you just punt tight end, which is something that I usually do, unless I get George Kittle. I usually punt tight end because Kittle seems to always get drafted 2-3 rounds behind
Right.
the premier guys, but still have the capacity to be a premier guy. So I always buy Kittle when I can. But other than that, I'll just punt tight end and get somebody in my last couple of rounds because
Do you
usually
remember how many, so like in a 10-team league, how many picks does everybody typically get on average?
16 to 17, depending on your league.
All right. So 170 picks, 160, 170 picks. So all these guys potentially would get picked per
Barely.
PFF grades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Brian Robinson, there's a ton of value there as a late round running back that might end up starting on your lineup later on in the season. Again, I think if you see this team take off and you see the offense get going, which is possible with a rookie quarterback, you could see Brian Robinson really put in some work in the goal line situations, and you wonder, like with him and Eckler, who's going to be scoring those touchdowns there.
That's the
And
danger, right?
if the offense gets going, and if there will be some touchdown upside in one of those two guys, and that's why I like Ertz out of all of these in terms of like a value pick. Ertz is my favorite because I think you will see across the NFL rookie quarterback, young, veteran, reliable tight end. It becomes kind of like a safety blanket. 3rd and 4, where's Zach? You know, um, 1st and goal with 7 yards out, we're going to pass. Where's Zach? Those kind of situations you're looking for Ertz. And he's got a chip on his shoulder, and if he can stay healthy, I think he could. It's not crazy to assume that he could finish as a top 12 tight end.
Yeah, no, I do think he's somebody that I would consider, taking, like you said, if he kind of punted tight end. And you never know. I mean, he could have a really productive season. It's an interesting one between B. Rob and Eckler. It gives me maybe a poor man's, Gibbs and Montgomery to a degree, right? There's going to be
poor
some
man's, but yes.
there's going to be that split there, and you're just not sure which guy's going to be more productive than the other. That could share the load. What do you think about Jaden Daniels though? Like, is he going to be someone's QB1 in the draft?
It's not going to be mine.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't mind like taking JD if you are kind of like if you're in like a keeper league where you can keep one of the guys in the late rounds that you get, or if you're just going to punt the quarterback position and maybe pair him with like a Jared Goff or like a late round or like a Kirk Cousins or a Aaron Rodgers or one of those veterans that will be a steady hand and then maybe you hope. That's kind of what I did last year. Like I took Herbert and then I also took Anthony Richardson late. Um, I would kind of do Daniels that same kind of way. Like I would take like a
Yeah.
late value quarterback and then also take Daniels. Which that you might see me do. Who knows? We'll have to see how the board falls. But
Fun segment.
yeah,
Fun segment.
Daniels can make you some money for sure if things go the way we're hoping / kind of starting to project that they'll go. But let's wrap this thing up, Pop. It's been a good segment. I know you got a busy night of rum and cokes and beach ahead of you, so I don't want to hold you any longer.
That's it. Normally the boy's out here with us, but he's got work, so definitely missing him. Missing him. You guys have been around for a couple of years. We usually do an in-person one out here at the beach, but we'll get there. We'll get there next time. We're gonna road game coming up that we're gonna check out. We'll tease that and let you know which one that we'll be going to see live there in the season.
Definitely. But without further ado, what do you say we wrap this thing up, Pop?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, guys, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
And thank you for another great week, everybody.